Hello and welcome to the Walt Whitman Show. Welcome to the Walt Whitman Show and welcome to my kitchen. Welcome to reading of poetry from Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. Welcome to everybody. You're all very, very welcome. And I'm Paul O'Mani and I'm sitting in my kitchen. And Mike, hello. Lovely to have you. Lovely to have you. And Judy, hello. Goliath, hello. Oh, it's just very nice to see you all. C.S. Moth, hello. Gregor, hello. Watching football, listening to me. Well, what a combination. Anne Case, hello. Properly. You say hello properly. I'll whoopsie daisy, I'm just getting myself organised here now, and you wouldn't realise half how precarious I am balanced, because I'm trying to improve on the experience that you get. Now, I wonder what that's like. I wonder if that's any good. So, anyway, good evening and welcome. And to those of you who haven't a clue what the Walt Whitman Show is about, the first thing is about very good company. There's really superb company here, really lovely people. We do some poetry. We do some poetry by a 19th century American poet who is, in my opinion, the greatest of the American poets. This is him. Yeah, that's what he looks like just before he died. I should get onto some radio. Yeah, get off Periscope and get onto the radio. That's I like that. That's a good one. So anyway, we have this man who was born on Long Island in 1819 and he lived until 1892. Yeah. And don't worry, nobody's made me an offer to go anywhere. But if an offer comes along, I can't pretend what'll happen, you know. It's a much more civilized hour. Now, the thing about the Walt Whitman Show is that it happens every night, except when something goes wrong, at around this time. And the project really is, which I assume we'll never get to the end of, but is that this whole book, this entire work of Walt Whitman will be read on Periscope, you know, step by step by step. And the show is greet everybody. People will get to know each other. It's a great place for meeting people. It's almost 6 p.m. in the East Coast of the United States. And there are actually quite a few people looking for this fellow McGregor. I've no knowledge about him at all. And frankly, I'm not much interested in him. But, you know, we'll see. So, off we go. I'm going to read the poetry and then we'll have a little chat about it. Then I'm going to read it again. And we're going to see what happens. I'm going to try and turn on one more light and see. It's only 3 p.m. in San Diego. Yeah, I bet you it's bright and sunny and you've got blue sky and no rain. I don't know if that causes an improvement, but anyway, look, here we are. And the poem I'm going to read from is called Song of the Broad Axe. Song of the Broad Axe. And if I remember rightly, it's got 12 parts to it. What's this? Talk about what happened to the mother-in-law, right? Well, I don't think we're talking about Walt Whitman's mother-in-law, are we? So, yeah, 12 parts. 12 parts, and we're now going to read part 4. And part 4 is quite short. New Zealand, good morning and welcome. I'm really pleased, you know. When I think about the Walt Whitman Show, this show, I always think that it's everybody on the left-hand side. Like we're here in Ireland, and you go this way towards the United States and Canada. But don't get so many people from this side of the world. And I always think it would be lovely to get more right-hand people, as far as I'm concerned, over this direction. So your buddies are here. Well, that's lovely, Mike. That's very good. So yeah, Paul's going to read part 4 and part 5 of Song of the Broad Axe by Walt Whitman. And in case you have your own volume of Walt Whitman, this is from the deathbed edition, the final edition of Walt Whitman's work. Just a second now, I need to check something. I need to check that I'm not reading the same thing as I was reading the last time. I'm a little bit confused. Didn't we read part 4 and part 5? Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. We read part 4 and part 5, so we should now be reading part 6. Would that be good? I've got myself really and really I'm completely, look, I'm going to read part 6. Yes. I was in a day. Do you know what? I think I'm going to read part 5 again. I'm going to read part 5 again. It's absolutely true. Last night's program I did while I was half asleep. Yeah. It was at a crazy time. So right, here we go. Part 5 of Song of the Broad Axe by Walt Whitman. The place where a great city stands is not the place of stretched wharves, docks, manufactures, deposits of produce merely, nor the place of ceaseless salutes of newcomers or the ocean lifters of the departing, nor the place of the tallest and costliest buildings or shops selling goods from the rest of the earth, nor the place of the best libraries and schools, nor the place where the money is plenteous, nor the place of the most numerous populations. Where the city stands with the brawniest breed of orator and bards, where the city stands that is beloved by these and loves them in return and understands them, where no monuments exist to heroes but in the common words and deeds, where thrift is in its place and prudence is in its place, where the men and women think lightly of the laws, where the slave ceases and the master of slaves ceases, where the populace rise at once against the never-ending audacity of elected persons, where fierce men and women pour forth as the sea to the whistle of death pours its sweeping and unribbed waves, where outside authority enters always after the precedence of inside authority, where the citizen is always the head and ideal, and president, mayor, governor, and whatnot are agents for pay, where children are taught to be laws to themselves and to depend on themselves, where equanimity is illustrated in affairs, where speculations on the soul are encouraged, where women walk in public processions in the streets the same as the men, where they enter the public assembly and take places the same as the men, where the city of the faithfulest friends stands, where the city of the cleanliness of the sexes stands, where the city of the healthiest fathers stands, where the city of the best bodied mothers stands. There the great city stands. That is end of part 5. End of part 5, and I do remember reading it before. Yes. Now we're going to go on to part 6. You liked it, John, you liked it. Oh, that's good. That's good. The great city, yeah. Ah, good. The great city. I think the great city is a... you find the repetition grating on the page, but I like it in the reading aloud. Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things about Whitman. He deserves to be read aloud. Yeah, I won't say anything about any other poet, but I do think Whitman deserves to be read aloud. I think the great city is a theme that comes up with a number of poets over the ages. The idea of the great city. Sounds like there's some Socrates in that place. Yeah, Whitman actually was familiar with a lot of Greek stuff. He knew his Plato. Yeah. I'll go on now to part 6, and I'll also read part 7. So I'm going to read part 6 and 7. Yeah, I think I have the notion of the heavenly city in my head somewhere, but I haven't worked anything out. So part 6. How beggarly appear arguments before a defiant deed. How the floridness of the materials of cities shrivels before a man's or woman's look. All waits or goes by default till a strong being appears. A strong being is the proof of the race and of the ability of the universe. When he or she appears, materials are overawed. The dispute on the soul stops. The old customs and phrases are confronted, turned back, or laid away. What is your money making now? What can it do now? What is your respectability now? What is your theology, tuition, society, traditions, statute books now? Where are your jibes of being now? Where are your cavils about the soul now? End of part 6. Part 7. A sterile landscape covers the ore. There is as good as the best for all the forbidding appearance. There is the mine, there are the miners, the forge furnace is there, the melt is accomplished, the hammers men are at hand with their tongs and hammers. What always served and always serves is at hand. Than this nothing has better served. It has served all. Served the fluent-tongued and the subtle-sensed Greek, and long ere the Greek. Served in building the buildings that last longer than any. Served the Hebrew, the Persian, the most ancient Hindustani, served the mound raiser on the Mississippi, served those whose relics remain in Central America, served Albic temples in woods or on plains, with unhewed pillars and the Druids, served the artificial clefts, vast, high, silent on the snow-covered hills of Scandinavia, served those who time out of mind made on the granite walls rough sketches of the sun, moon, stars, ships, ocean waves, served the paths of the eruptions of the Goths, served the pastoral tribes and nomads, served the long-distant Celt, served the hardy pirates of the Baltic, served before any of these the venerable and harmless men of Ethiopia, served the making of helms for the galleys of pleasure and the making of those for war, served all great works on land and all great works on the sea, for the medieval ages and before the medieval ages, served not the living only, then as now, but served the dead. That is part 7 of Song of the Broad Axe. Time out of mind. Where have you heard that before? Time out of mind. Bob Dylan, yeah, these are all served. I'm always law. The dead. The dead. A sterile landscape covers the ore. A sterile landscape covers the ore. There is as good as the best for all the forbidding appearance. There is the mine, there is the miners. I think that's a lovely line. There is the mine, there is the miners. There are the miners, sorry. The dead. Yeah, the ending served, not the living only then as now, but served the dead. I think Whitman is a great one for the last line in a section. I mean, all poets have to, like in a song or anything, you strive to have a good ending. Similarly, if you're writing a serial, each chapter has to have a very good ending. I think Whitman does endings quite well, really. Hello, Alicia. We the living are served by Whitman. Yes. Footnote, Albic, from Albion, ancient name for England. I was wondering that. Served Albic temples in woods or on plains with unhewn pillars and the Druids. I guess you had plenty of Druids in. It reminds me of Bath. I used to live in Bath in England. And Bath is a city which was built by the Romans. And the Romans found a spring, a hot spring in the middle of forest. And that's where they built their city. They built the city of Bath around the hot springs. So where it says temples in woods or on plains, but temples in woods, I think of Roman temples in Bath. Yes, in your opinion, Whitman is the second greatest American poet. Lovely, lovely. At least he's in the top 10 anyway. So at least he's, you know, he's still there. Hello, Lady Garza. Hello. I'm going to read part 6 and part 7 again. And Poe is your favourite. Lovely, lovely. I can't pretend to know Poe's work very well, I must say. But everybody here who's ever said anything about Poe speaks very highly of him. I'm going to read part 6 again. My other favourites, well, probably you all know that my favourite living American poet is Mary Oliver. But if we're just talking about American poets, well, Emily Dickinson would be another poet whose work I love to spend time on. In fact, one of the things I love about Emily Dickinson is her poems are short, and you can actually, you know, they give you a piece to focus on. Not a whole big long vista, but it's very intimate poetry, I find. And I mean, she uses words like diamonds, you know, they're just all precious. And yeah, a very intimate poet in my experience of her. Oh, Wendy Cope wrote a lovely poem by Emily Dickinson. Oh, I'd like to read that. I'd like to read that. There's a funny thing about Emily Dickinson, you know, it connects with, good. Oh, I must look that up. In fact, I must make a note. Wendy Cope on Emily Dickinson. That's a great. I like Emily Cope. Wendy Cope on Emily Dickinson. A funny thing happened, you know, when I started to write poetry, I wrote a lot, like a humongous amount. And for several years, I wrote hundreds of poems. I'm not saying any of them were any good, but I'm just saying that I wrote an awful lot. And then I discovered that after Emily Dickinson died, they found packages of poetry in her house, up in the loft. And as I understand it, the packages of poetry were tied up very neatly. And it turned out that in 1858 she wrote 280 poems. In 1859 she wrote 301. In 1860 she wrote 320. And then, so she had about 6 years during which each year she wrote 300 poems or so. And all I could think of was, well, I've written more than Emily Dickinson. And it was just really, you know, I used to chuckle to myself. Yeah. But you can, you see, well, I mean, I don't in any way want to speak of quality, but I know that you can write several poems in a day. I do know one particular poet who's a very, very good writer who would be happy if he can put 5 words down on a page in a day. You know, he, 5 words. Well, 1 line, let's say 1 line. If he gets 1 line in a day, that's as much as he certainly won't feel he's wasted his time. But I'm a bit of an extreme. I go to the other extreme. But I'm going to read you. I'll read you some more of Walt Whitman. I'm going to go back now and read part 6 and part 7 again, because it's only. I'm quite sure that it's You have to hear the work, you know, more than once. And Simon has just joined us, so he at least will be here, and he's missed the earlier part. So did any of the poems? No, not any of them at all. Andrew, when I wrote letters, when I wrote amorous letters, there was nothing poetic about. There might have been something poetic, I suppose, if you put it in inverted commas, but no, I didn't write any poetry until well after that. No, I had a serious business period where all of my writing was about business, and so I found myself, you see, I'd written just about everything you could have to write for businesses, and so what was there left for me to do except write poetry? That was why I started writing poetry. Your amorous letters. Your husband still writes you poetry. Brilliant. But your husband is a very interesting man, Susan. I mean, he's not a normal... I don't think I've had 10 wives. No. Alicia, that's wrong. I'm quite sure there's something wrong. I'm pretty sure I haven't had 10 wives. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Part 6 of Song of the Broad Axe. I thought you were being serious. But I'm sure 10 is... I'd have remembered how many I had, and if it got into 10, you can still live indoors. So likely not. You still live indoors. So oh yeah, I think How beggarly appear arguments before a defiant deed. How the floridness of the materials of cities shrivels before a man's or a woman's look. All waits or goes by default till a strong being appears. A strong being is the proof of the race and of the ability of the universe. When he or she appears, materials are overawed. The dispute on the soul stops. The old customs and phrases are confronted, turned back, or laid away. What is your money making now? What can it do now? What is your responsibility now? What are your theology, tuition, society, traditions, statute books now? Where are your jibes of being now? Where are your cavils about the soul now? End of part 6. Part 7. A sterile landscape covers the ore. There is as good as the best for all the forbidding appearance. There is the mine. There are the miners. The forge furnace is there. The melt is accomplished. The hammer's men are at hand with their tongs and hammers. What always served and always serves is at hand. Than this nothing has better served. It has served all. Served the fluent-tongued and subtle-sensed Greek, and long ere the Greek. Served in building the buildings that last longer than any. Served the Hebrew, the Persian, the most ancient Hindustani. Served the mound raiser on the Mississippi. Served those whose relics remain in Central America. Served Albic temples in woods or on plains with unhewn pillars and the Druids. Served the artificial clefts, vast, high, silent on the snow-covered hills of Scandinavia. serve those who time out of mind made on the granite walls rough sketches of the sun, moon, stars, ships, ocean waves. Serve the paths of the irruptions of the Goths, serve the pastoral tribes and nomads. Serve the long-distant Celt, served the hardy pirates of the Baltic, served before any of those, the venerable and harmless men of Ethiopia, served the making of helms for the galleys of pleasure and the making of those for war, served all great works on land and all great works on the sea, for the medieval ages and before the medieval ages, served not the living, only then as now, but served the dead. Now, will somebody please tell me about the Ethiopians? I don't understand about the Ethiopians. Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. But would somebody please explain to me? There we are, reading along, kind of in a very pleasant way. There I am wondering about. He's got good sense of geography, hasn't he, and all that. And suddenly, the venerable and harmless men of Ethiopia. I mean, come on now, come on. Never mind the cereal box now. I want to know about Ethiopians, please. Who are the venerable and harmless men of Ethiopia? You've never had much time for Whitman. Oh God, and I love Walt, and that's another story. But this series is converting me to him. Oh, good. Well, come on. I want to know about the Ethiopians, please. I haven't looked it up, and it came as a huge shock to me to suddenly find myself reading about the Ethiopians. And, yes, exactly. WTF, Skinny 12. You hit it on the head. What about the Ethiopians? And I keep thinking of Monty Python. And there must be some, Monty Python sketch where they say, and what about the Ethiopians? I actually have a small amount of experience of Ethiopia in the sense that I once taught some people from Eritrea. What's the skinny on the Ethiopians? The skinny, I'm trying to think now where I saw that word. I'm looking here to see it. No, I can't see it right now. By the way, Celt is spelled K-E-L-T, which is very interesting. When you're reading it, you come across Canada is spelled with a K, and I only know of Shakespeare's reference, jewel in an Ethiop's. Ah, yeah, in an Ethiop's ear. Oh. Well, I know that Whitman knew his Shakespeare. Shakespeare being a racist in the name of love. Wow. It's, anyway, skinny means the information, but Ethiopias are emaciated, starved. Well, it's all right now, but I am going to, I'm still kind of, we go from served the long-distant Celt, served the hardy pirates of the Baltic, served before any of these the venerable and harmless men of Ethiopia. So you're kind of wandering around the Goths, well, that's Europe, pastoral tribes and nomads, long-distant Celts, hardy pirates of the Baltic, and then we get to Ethiopia. Sorry, I've just gone off on a kind of puzzlement. So, any thoughts? Any thoughts on this evening's journey? I'm noodling. Hey, that's a word I'll have to learn. Noodling. Come on, tell me what that means. Noodling. Is it related to doodling? Noodling. A reference to man's beginnings in Africa? Yeah? Well, just moving through thoughts. Oh, I do that all the time. I just noodle in that case. Noodling, moving through thoughts randomly. Yeah. I used to, Zappa used noodling to describe his guitar playing. Ah, talking about Frank Zappa now, yeah? Yeah. Wow. I used to have a habit when I had a dog. When we had a dog in the house here, I used to take the dog for walks at about this time in the evening, which is quite late, after 11 o'clock at night. And I would noodle out loud and record it and share them on my podcast. So I would walk around with just emptying the mind. I used to think of it as emptying the mind before, so that I'd be ready for bed. And I did this for, I suppose it must have been about a year. And it was a great way of ending the day. Now, the Ethiopians taught early Egyptians to worship gods. Aha! So the Ethiopians taught the Egyptians. Very interesting. I have little bits of knowledge about the Egyptians because I went to Egypt and I went to the temple of Ramses II. The temple of Ramses II is in a place called Abu Simbel, which is out in the middle of nowhere. And it's an enormous temple. It's, hello, Mr. Light, hello. And Abu Simbel, where the temple of Ramses II is it's just enormous. Everything in Greece is tiny in comparison with Abu Simbel. All the Greek things, the Parthenon would kind of fit in with ease into Ramses II's. I think so. I have heard that said before. I'm not sure, but I have heard that. And, two vast trunkless legs of stone. The statue of Ramses II is just enormous. It's enormous. Busy today. Oh, Mike, it's just lovely to have your company. I always thought Skinny was the name of some personality. Are we going back to Skinny now? I'm trying to see. Any of you ever been to Egypt? Or any of you got any desire to go there? Yes, Simon, you have me going backwards now. Also was a slam turn Somalians. Skinnies is a slang term for Somalians. Right. Ethiopians being called harmless and venerable, doesn't that mean elderly, older men? Yeah, you would think that. It would, a military slang term. Right. The skinnies. Ah. Well. Yeah. I can't even find the line. The skinnies. But it must be there. I love the how would I feel being described as harmless and venerable? Well, I think I am harmless and venerable. I certainly think I'm venerable. Whether I'm harmless now, scholarly and wise people, the Ethiopians, that's the way, yes, yes. Venerable means that you're a candidate to be venerated, doesn't it? I'm harmless, maybe. Yeah, mostly harmless. So long as you're also a little vulnerable. To be venerable and vulnerable. I actually think I'd be very uncomfortable to be venerated. That's what you took, from Whitman's words, yes. Yeah. If anyone wants to go to Egypt, contact you and I can put you in touch with the best guide, lives across the street, in Giza. Oh. Yeah, there's nothing like having a good guide in Egypt. Mostly harmless is a direct quote from Douglas Adams. Oh, right. This geezer wants to go someday. Well, and just while we're talking about Mr. Adams, if we're going to really talk about Mr. Adams, I want you to know that I don't drink a cup of tea without consulting him, because I went to the restaurant at the end of the universe and I found that they didn't have what I wanted on the menu. So I'm consulting Mr. Adams every time I have a cup of tea. Across the street, Sphinx and the Great Pyramid, his grandfather discovered a solar boat. I went to the Great Pyramid on a camel. Community TV tube. Hello. Hello. Yes, the Douglas Adams tea drinking tradition, yes. You took a screenshot, so you have the book title. Super Queen Bee, hello. Hello. Yes. Never drink tea without being able to consult a book like this. There are alternatives, but, the other ones I'd recommend are called The Meaning of Life. And the other book is called In the Beginning is the Word. And they're the other two books I'd recommend. In the Beginning is the Word, and The Meaning of Life. They're essential reading for cups of tea. Different books for coffee entirely, but this is definitely just for tea. Coffee, much. The Meaning of Life, is it? Yes. Yes, and Susan consults The Meaning of Life. Susan consults only her heart and soul for anything that she does. Her poor husband ever gets consulted. No, he's never consulted, only when he is her heart and soul. And I suspect that's most of the time. But it's a very nice way of saying, I always consult my husband by saying, I only consult my heart and soul. I think that's a nice thing. I think he would quite like to hear that. You're reading a poetry anthology called Prayers for a Secular World, for tea drinking at the moment. Splendid. Oh, that's a good one. Yes, I could do with prayers for tea drinking and other prayers for gin. If you could please, because I have a tendency on the Walt Whitman show, not during the month of November, but afterwards, if any of you have any poems to read while Oh, well, I can read you what Douglas Adams says about tea. Hold on a second, I'll get you. Arthur appeared as a gorgon, an evil, rapacious, ravening, bloodied ogre, slaughtering his way through an innocent one-man universe, until he found himself confronted by a cup of tea. With this, Arthur scratched his knees, sat down, picked a flea out of his hair, and said, "I need a book." He put his hands over his eyes, hung his head and shook it slowly from side to side, and looked at the name of the book. I can't read that. And he threw the book over his shoulder. Whereupon Agrajag and Arthur reluctantly accepted that on this grounds he would have to write the Book of Tea. So that's the first part of reference in Life, Universe and Everywhere that Douglas Adams has to tea. So Simon has now gone off to get his copy of Douglas Adams and to check that that was an accurate reading. Yes, if we had Hal Sherman here, he would tell us if it was an accurate reading, because he would have access to the entire databanks of Douglas Adams. And so you're back now, having sent me off on a wild goose chase to go and find the exact quotation about tea and Arthur's opinion on tea. You then proceed to let your Wi-Fi break down so that you miss the most important reading of Douglas Adams. You keep losing your video connection. Talking about thirst, I excuse me now, I need a little thirst quenching. You'll have to catch it, you will. Augustin Rochin has joined. Hello, Oklahoma. I have a great friend in Oklahoma, and her name is Becky McCrae. In case you happen to know Becky McCrae in Oklahoma, she's Becky McCrae on Twitter. She doesn't do Periscope, but she's the co-author of a book called Small Town Rules. You don't know Becky? Ah, right. Well, look, Tweet Kahari, it's lovely to meet you. Very nice to. I like people from Oklahoma. My wife went and did a master's degree in Oklahoma. McRae is my daughter's married name. Ah. After drinking, water is universal. Steve Holder is here. You look up her book. Yeah, very nice to meet you. Does her name mean my heart? Becky McCrae. Becky McCrae. It could. I think it's Scottish, actually. McCrae is a Scottish name, more than an Irish one. But she's threatening to come to Ireland. She's been threatening to come to Ireland for several years. Maybe you should hang on for the second reading of Arthur Dent, or the second reading of Douglas Adams. Yeah. I think you'll just have to catch that. I have no intention of reading anything more from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It might deflect us away. We might never get to the end of Walt Whitman. So look, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you in a minute, and I think I should read you a little bit more Walt Whitman before closing the show. I think I'll read part 6 again. You're glad to be free to be here for the whole show. Oh, I'm very glad you are here. Really am. But can I say one thing, Alicia? That poor fella who plays the cello in your group, will he not appear more frequently in the video? I mean, I'm still trying to make it up to him for forgetting him, but that he existed one night. I made a mistake. There are 3 people in Alicia's group. Alicia and a piano player who's a very good piano player. You're not telling me that Doug and Ali are here, are you? Oh my goodness. Doug and Ali are here. Can I introduce you to Frameable Faces now? And the rows 3 are the players that Alicia's trio. Well, you'd be happy to place the camera on him though, even though he's not that great to look at. Well, you know, lots of us aren't great to look at. So, I mean, I don't think his cello makes a nice sound. Cello is. And, you know, cello players, I think they're discriminated against. And I think there's a lot of anti-cello feeling around. And I think that, you know, we do need to stand firm in solidarity with cello players, because they've had a raw deal over the years, you know, and they have been definitely underdogs. So I do feel that it's beholden to those of us who, you know, aren't going to be, can you not hear him, or do you hear him better when you can see him also? I hear him much better when I can see him. Yeah. When I can see the musician, I hear them better. Yeah. Well, some brass players deserve it. I mean, I have to say, I'd have to hold my hand up and say, some brass players are just, they're very basic, you know. You were a cello player. Yeah, the poor old cello players. I mean, the violin is featured up front, very big and all that. I don't think Lenzi Salazar, we're talking now about cello players being sexy, and I'm not quite sure, but we're talking about the need to stop this discrimination against cello players. We've had 2 pieces of Walt Whitman, which have been read twice, and now we're trying to see quite how frivolous can we be, and still remain interesting. You've been using your mute on your violin to help hear the cello. Oh my goodness. Oh, did I ever tell you you were a saint, Alicia? Did I ever tell you that you were absolutely... Oh, you didn't realize that there was... Well, just watch now. You just see how cello players are treated. Look, Doug and Ali, you guys are very special. You know, I'll read you a small piece of Walt Whitman now before we finish. Just in a minute or so, I'll read a piece of Walt Whitman. You like the phrase in part 6, the ability of the universe. Yeah. Just a little bit more Walt Whitman. Yeah, I will. Yeah. Yep. Okay. I'm going to read you, I'm going to read a short piece of Walt Whitman, and it's part 6 of Song of the Broad Axe. Song of the Broad Axe. Oh, look who's snuck in here. Rob has arrived from Los Angeles. Kathy, I'm less tired than I was last night. God, some of my best friends have crept in here. Yeah, I'm less tired than I was last night, but been pushing the boat out this weekend. The Broad Axe. Elisa, you have quite a mouth. Some prayers, please. I'm not giving you every piece of Walt Whitman is a prayer, right? I just want you to know that in my opinion, every piece of poetry by Walt Whitman is a prayer, right? His entire life's work was designed in order to bring about, a world which was fit for souls to live in. So I think it's all a prayer. So here we go. Here we go, part 6 of Walt Whitman's Song of the Broad Axe. How beggarly appear arguments before a defiant deed. How the floridness of the materials of cities shrivels before a man's or a woman's look. All waits or goes by default till a strong being appears. A strong being is the proof of the race and of the ability of the universe. When he or she appears, materials are overawed. The dispute on the soul stops. The old customs and phrases are confronted, turned back, or laid away. What is your money making now? What can it do now? What is your respectability now? What is your theology, tuition, society, traditions, statute books now? Where are your jibes now? Where are your jibes of being now? Where are your cavils about the soul now? You just got tweeted. Sorry, I missed that. So there's the last line. Where are your cavils about the soul now? Money, respectability, theology, society. He uses, to cavil. It's your carping. I think it is carping. Somebody better check it because I might be wrong. But it is, where's your carping about the soul now? Something was tweeted. But I think I haven't got a dictionary here, but I think it's, it's a form of complaining, yeah. Carping is to complain, yeah. Imagine if he could read. So that's Mr. Whitman. Complain, yeah. Yeah, I think cavil wouldn't be a very commonly used word. So I like carping. I have to say I'm attached to the word carping. As in, carping diem. It means. Anyway. You don't mind me now. I'm just fecking around with the words, as we'd say. Carping diem. Yes, you heard it, Andrew. You heard what I was trying to say. Exactly. Yeah. Would it relate to attacking as in cavalry? Where are your cavalry? Carpe diem, yeah. I'm going to say goodnight to you all. Yes, look at that. This is beautiful humor, beautiful humor. Kate has just left. Yes, carpe diem. Yeah, absolutely. It's you've been carping daily. Yeah. Do any of you eat carp? Oh, sorry, that's a dead end. That's a cul-de-sac. I'm going to say, Susan's going to say, Susan, will you say your usual goodbye? Cruelty to fish, yeah. You've received many a carping DM from your Twitter friends, yeah. Coy are for watching. What does this look? I'm not going to throw my coys out of the... Oh dear. Throw my coys out of the basket. Bye-bye, Susan. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. I need angels on my pillow tonight. I'm going to say, yes, I did give up alcohol. I gave up alcohol. Tweet Carrie, thank you very much. Thank you. Please, you'll, at this time of the day, every day, be here. But I do some other tweets, other Periscope. Yeah, only for November. Schlaf gut, schlaf gut. Danke sehr, danke sehr. Okay. Namaste. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Cheers, dog. Bye-bye. Schlaf gut. Ja. For a good laugh, Julie. Whitman is the new comedy show, right? I'll see you guys. Bye-bye. Thanks a million again. You're just lovely, lovely company. You definitely bring out the best in me, whatever that is. Bye-bye, Mr. American. Bye-bye. Jana. Good night, Jana.